Ohio State doesn't want debates, excuses, or margins this season. The motto for 2026 is simple: leave no doubt.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Tuesday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now the number one sports podcast network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, veteran sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. During today's show, we will discuss the importance of Ryan Day getting hires correct this offseason, as well as two areas the Buckeyes must maximize in 2026. But first, let's go back in time a little bit to the Buckeyes' last national championship win. In the first year of an expanded playoff into 12 teams, we see Ohio State go on a miraculous run, and run that some people thought would never happen in this sport, where you've beaten Tennessee and then Oregon and then Texas and then Notre Dame in the national championship. And all throughout that run, Ryan Day preached, leave no doubt. And that helped a very veteran team with being led by Will Howard do just that. They left no doubt on the field. Yeah, when Texas was driving, it's like they were going to tie the game late in the game. What had happened? Ohio State made a play, and they left no doubt on the field that they were the better team on that day against Notre Dame, when Notre Dame was fighting back and trying to scratch and claw to overcome and to upset the Buckeyes in the national championship. What do you find? 3rd and Jeremiah. The Buckeyes left no doubt. This past season, they left doubt out there. Not just in times where you thought, oh, this may happen. No, there was clearly moments where Ohio State left doubt, left room for error, and certain teams capitalize on the Buckeyes' mistakes. Well, in 2026, let's go back to what worked. We don't have to try and reinvent the wheel and do what Ryan Day did last year, where Ryan Day was trying to slow walk this thing and try to play the long game. No. Leave no doubt worked in the past, and leave no doubt will work again. Now, the difference is from previously, it was a 4-game stretch where Ryan Day kept preaching, leave no doubt. Now, this time it's going to be a long season where it is leave no doubt. And still, what's up in the air about this upcoming season, there could be a 12-team playoff. There could be a 16-team playoff, or as Tony Petitti has been pushing for, it could be a 24-team playoff, which most people that have a sane mind in this sport don't want a 24-team playoff, but that could be the reality of the upcoming season. And when you preach leave no doubt, when you have veteran players like a Jeremiah Smith, like Julian Sayin, like Kenyatta Jackson Jr., Jalyn McClain, and others, they're going to help patrol and maximize the opportunities every single game so that the guys on those sides of the ball do what the motto of the year is, which is leave no doubt. And if Ryan Day wants to let this thing trickle on to the 2027 year and 2028 and beyond, so be it. Because the last time he used that phrase, we all remember the miraculous plays. We remember Tennessee's running back getting his helmet cracked. We remember Nico Iamaleava. I believe he got his helmet cracked twice in the same game. Oregon, same thing, busting heads. I'm not even talking about the stuff on offense that was just light to the scoreboard. Defensively, that was a different animal. And you could say, yeah, Jay, that was a very veteran team. Okay, cool. That's true. There's an argument to be made that Arvell Reese is a better linebacker than Cody Simon. I don't think anybody's going to say that he's not. But in that year, when you say leave no doubt, Cody Simon played like a madman. Also, Jim Knowles kind of set Cody Simon loose in different ways, where I think in their parts of the season led in the latter part of this past season, well, Arvell Reese wasn't utilized in a proper way. Almost like you're saving certain tricks in your bag for later in the year, but those tricks were never pulled out when the Buckeyes needed to use them. When you leave no doubt, that's not just something the older veteran players want to hear. That's going to trickle down to everybody on the roster, the transfers that are coming in, trying to figure out what it means to be a Buckeye. Also, the incoming freshmen that are going to be a part of the team, the walk-ons as well. It's going to be a moment where everybody's going to be looking out and saying, this isn't a part of adding pressure to the season. This is a moment where Ryan Day is going back in time and pushing a button that worked. And when it worked, you saw people flying around with relentless pursuit on defense. You saw the offensive line getting off the ball fast and quick. And whether it was a zone run or a gap scheme, whatever the case may be, you saw everybody in sync. And you saw the receivers do a lot of great things when they were on the field. This upcoming year, Cardinal Tate is gone. They're going to have Brandon Ennis, Jeremiah Smith, probably Chris Henry Jr. You add in Kyle Parker, maybe Devin McEwen. Those are 5 guys that are going to be out there on the field that could be all out there at the same time trying to do what? Leave no doubt. And with Ryan Day's mindset, it's him being a coach and how the national championship game was played just a night ago, and he got to watch a game between 2 really good teams. And the only 2 teams this year that Ohio State lost to, Ryan Day's watching that, or maybe he's going to report from what's happening in the game. Maybe he can't stomach the moments in the few hours in the day where that game was being played. Why? Because of what happened the last time he played those 2 teams. Okay, if you can't stomach it, and I don't know what Ryan Day did, I'm literally recording this before the game is kicked off, which is why I had not discussed who won the game. But Ryan Day can look at there and see Notre Dame. I saw Marcus Freeman on TV. See Miami, see Indiana, and say, what did they do when they played us? They left no doubt. They made the plays. They made the plays that were necessary for them to win the game. Now, Ohio State next year, you look at their schedule, it's not easy. It's going to be one of the more difficult schedules that Ohio State has had under Ryan Day in the regular season. You got Michigan, of course, that's going to be a better Michigan team under a coach in Kyle Whittingham that is a very disciplined, old school style coach that a lot of these young men are going to be able to lean into what he is saying and lean into the new methods and modes that he's utilizing there in Ann Arbor. You got to go down. At least as of right now, they're still scheduled to play the game against Texas. That is week number 2. You have to go to Bloomington, Indiana, which is going to be a very, very, very tough game. You add in, I think there's USC on the schedule. There's a couple of the schools that are not off the top of my head that I'm not thinking about. You have to realize that in this upcoming season, it's going to be a different challenge, a different grind. And if you figure out right now the right buttons to push so your players leave no doubt, you're doing something right. And everything starts not now, but the 2026 season is officially underway because 2026 was underway for the Buckeyes, but 2025 had not closed yet. And as I say that, I realize how stupid some of this stuff is in college football because we're preparing for the next season literally before the last season ended. Wow. Who is in charge? Oh, you got so many hands, so many minds. The people controlling the schedule aren't a part of the conferences, aren't a part of the universities, which is why people are doing the things that are best for them, that they think is best for them, but not best for the sport overall. Leave no doubt. I'm a person that's always been a believer in not changing something if it wasn't broken. Ryan Day tried to change some things in 2025 where you're trying to play the long game and slow things down for the offense and trying to save bodies for the playoff. And what did you find? You weren't able to attack when you wanted to, or maybe you couldn't attack when you said the team was ready to attack. The defense didn't really hit in certain areas all season long. While you're trying to play the long game, you weren't fine-tuning and fixing certain things their team needed to fine-tune and fix before getting into the game against Michigan. Now, you won the game, but you thought the Buckeyes would be doing a few more things in that game. Oh, the game against Indiana in the Big Ten title game. You preach all season long, this is the game we want to win. But there were times it didn't look like you really are all in on winning that game based off the body language of play and the way the players are leaving the field. I know people are saying the Buckeyes are coming off the field, they look pissed off. I'm not denying what they saw. I am saying what I witnessed. I don't understand. Yeah, you preach something, and it's not actually happening on the field. Which is why I just turn back the clock, go back to what worked in 2024, and leave no doubt. Well, the Buckeyes are striving to leave no doubt. There are 2 areas Ryan Day and the other coaches must maximize with every player on the team in 2026. We will discuss what those areas are after the break. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the NFL playoffs, the packed stadiums, and being right there in the middle of it all, the energy, the moments you remember forever. But actually getting tickets, now that part used to be frustrating with long queues, logins, and prices jumping at checkout. That's why Game Time gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. Guys, I opened the Game Time app to look up upcoming tickets to the AFC Championship game between the Patriots and the Broncos. And my goodness, I was surprised at how fast it was to find great seats. The app is incredibly easy to use. I went from browsing to buying tickets in just minutes. I loved being able to see the view from my seat before buying, so I knew exactly what I was getting. The zone deal stood out. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save even more. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. That's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. You'll be able to get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Buckeyes compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. An invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Discord server, which is basically a big group chat for Buckeye fans like us to talk about the team we love. You add in a special all-access episodes of Locked On Buckeyes and one-on-one texting with Buckeye news sent right to your phone. Go to lockedonbuckeyes.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. As we move forward with Ohio State working towards accomplishing all their goals in 2026, there are certain things Ohio State can do and must do in this upcoming season to not only leave no doubt on the field, but to maximize the opportunity they have with the mix of players they have this year. And when I say mix, this may be the first time, or it is the first time in Ryan Day's era of being the head coach at Ohio State, that he's lost 31 scholarship players from the previous year heading into the next year that could have played. 31 players to the portal. Then you add in the 5 players that declare for the draft early that were underclassmen. You lose 11 players that exhausted your eligibility. You just lost a lot of guys. A lot of players that you thought maybe they were going to leave. You lost a lot of players you thought were going to be depth pieces and the future of the team. Well, when you lose those players, it's very easy for you to lose focus and lose sight of what the main goal is. Well, you can't do that. And while Ryan Day is striving to keep the main goal, and to maximize the opportunity he has with the players on the roster, there are 2 areas Ryan Day must maximize with a team heading into next season. Maximize the players physically and mentally. Now, the physical part may be the part where you think, well, that's expected. We hear all the time, winter workouts are grueling. We hear some guys are Iron Buckeyes for their work in winter workouts and summer workouts. And so we hear about that part. We see some of the physical grind of players on the football field in spring practice, the glimpses we get to see of spring practice and fall camp. We get to see some of the physical development of players. Remember last year when people were showing video and pictures of Jeremiah Smith after the national championship, and then when he got to be there in spring practice, you look at the man's neck and his biceps. You're like, oh, homie's been doing some push-ups for breakfast because he is all in on getting his body physically ready and maximizing the opportunity to be at tip-top shape for the upcoming season. Look at other guys, Arvo Reese, Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs. You can look up and down the roster and say, oh, these guys are pushing different buttons at Ohio State physically. So that's a part where you're thinking physically is something that they could do. They have Mickey Mariotti still there. Well, there was time when Mickey Mariotti was there and the players weren't physically at the same level as some players down south. And myself and Jeff Hunt documented that on this show literally multiple times over the past few off seasons. And then now we don't talk about that because physically they're there. The mental part is different. Because I look at Ohio State against IU and against Miami in those 2 games. Yes, the Buckeyes lost, but I think there was a mental battle the Buckeyes lost throughout the game. And that's something that by looking at somebody, you can't always tell if somebody is mentally ready. They may look like they're not all the way there. They don't have everything put together for the game. But the next thing you know, they get out there on the field and, man, they're locked in. They're ready to go. There may be somebody that looks like they're locked in and ready to go, and they're not. You figure that out really quickly. You don't necessarily know if someone's mentally ready. Someone could look physically ready. You get on the field, it's clear they're not. But that's where the coaches have come in with their meetings and the resources they have, including talking to former coaches or other coaches around the country to see what they're doing, what's different, how are you utilizing the science to enhance your offseason workout plans. And when you do those things, you can tap into making sure you maximize the players mentally and physically. And I was listening to, I think it was Tim Tebow Monday before the game. He was on, was it Championship Drive? They had some different pregame shows. It was Championship Drive. He wasn't on College Football Live. One of the two. I truly forget which one it was. But Tim Tebow was there, and he was talking about his time playing in the national championship games. And he discussed that there were certain players that had different pregame rituals before the national championship, where Tebow was high-fiving guys and was going all around and just taking it all in, soaking everything in, where there were other players that literally wanted to be by themselves for hours before kickoff. But when they got there ready for the game and it was time to kick the ball off for that big-time national championship game, they were locked in and ready to go. So it's very difficult to maximize, to know mentally and physically what clicks for somebody. But when you figure it out, buddy, go all in. Go all in with the physical, go all in with the mental, and let everything else fall where it's going to fall. And if you think somebody pushes, you find some buttons you need to push for a certain player and those buttons aren't correct, change it, fine tune it, tweak it. That's what coaches are supposed to do. I remember when I was playing, I just thought about this recently, before the national championship game was just literally minutes away from that right now from being kicked off as I'm recording this show. Back when I was in high school, I remember there would be certain players that we got out of school at 2:45, kickoff on a Friday night was at 7. We had to be back. Oh, goodness. I think we had to be back by 4:30. I don't know exactly what time we had to be back, but basically around between 4 and 4:30, most everybody was in the locker room, getting dressed and getting ready for warm-ups. That time period may be off, but one thing I remember was that there would be guys that left on a Friday after school. You maybe go home or go with your friends or go to your girlfriends, whatever the case may be, you go away from school. There'd be other people that would walk around and talk at school, but you'll still be there on campus. Remember myself, I took my CD player, had my headphones. A lot of times when we were at home, I would go sit in the bleachers, go towards the top, probably 3/4 up the bleachers, sit and watch the marching band practice. Now I got headphones in, but I'm sitting there just watching the marching band practice. I was by myself, wasn't really with people. I was a social person, but my own mental makeup and preparation for the game was to do something a little bit different, just by myself, kind of soaking things all in. Everybody is different. And when you think somebody is isolating themselves, that might simply be them locking in for the game. Or you think somebody is going off, goofing around, that also might be their way to kind of let loose the long school day and kind of change up their own mindset before heading into a game. But coaches have to figure out what a player needs to do to lock in. Lock in for workouts, lock in for practice, lock in for getting extra work in when you're not around your team. You have to figure that stuff out. And it's Ryan Day's job to maximize the team in these areas. Yeah, maximizing the talent, that's a thing every coach strives to do. But when you're trying to maximize the talent, it's like physical and mental task, which is very hard to accomplish. You get some guys, I actually heard Curt was talking about his son Chase that's playing at Michigan. And he said that there would be times when it'd be 20 degrees outside. His son's outside throwing the football into a net at 10:30 at night. So it's cold, it's dark, it's late, and his son put that extra work in. And he wasn't gloating about his son. He was just saying some people are wired different. And when you find somebody that's wired different, find a way to not go overboard, but to make sure that fire is always there. And that's on Ryan Day. So Ryan Day to make sure the Buckeyes are working to leave no doubt on the field. It's on Ryan Day to make sure the Buckeyes are maximizing the mental and physical talents of the players. So you maximizing the team physically and mentally, but also it's on Ryan Day to make sure he gets every hire right. We'll discuss why. Maybe a no-brainer, but we'll dive deeper into it after the break. Guys, I'm looking right now at game day, and I don't know what Pat McAfee's going to say, but Desmond Howard, Nick Saban, and Marcus Freeman all picked Miami to beat Indiana. We talked yesterday at the end of the show where I had picked Indiana to win this game, and it's a large part because of their coaching, the preparation, and the things Curt Cignetti has done with this team to get them ready for the national championship. Pat McAfee just picked Indiana, which is a no-brainer. He lives in Indiana. Actually, doesn't look too far from the old house, the house I lived in when I was in high school. But one big reason why I picked Indiana to win the game, I don't know who is going to win the game because this has been recorded before, but I picked Indiana to win the game because Curt Cignetti has done something with his coaching staff that Ryan Day can look at, can dissect, and say, I need to do more of what he is doing. I'm not saying these coaches are doing things that no one's ever thought about with the preparation, with their film study, with the way they communicate, with the hours they put in. I am not saying they are the first to do this ever in the sport, but what they're doing is working with the players that they're getting. A lot of it is how you're evaluating talent. A lot of it is how you're communicating to your players. All of that goes into the hires why Indiana was so successful in 2025, which ties into why all hires matter, because Curt Cignetti has a lot of coaches on that Indiana coaching staff that have been with him for a long time. So they not only know him, they know his philosophy, they know what makes him tick, they know the things he is looking for. So you're not working with a first-year guy or a couple guys that have been there for the first year that you're trying to train up. No, a lot of these guys that have been there with Curt Cignetti, they've been there for a while. They know who he is. They know what he demands of players, which is why when they went to Indiana, it wasn't a new system. It was an old system that worked. They're now a bigger school with new resources, with a fan base that is more on the downside than the upside. And now they're on the upside because of what Curt Cignetti has cultivated there in Bloomington, Indiana, because he got hires right. Ryan Day is currently looking for a new offensive coordinator, potentially looking for a new DC, because as more NFL jobs open up, those are going to be more teams that are going to be reaching out to Matt Patricia, trying to lure him from college football back to the National Football League. Also, there will be more college football teams that are trying to pull him from Columbus to go play and be a coach elsewhere in college football. Patricia is going to try to figure out the best move for him in the upcoming season. If he leaves, that adds to why Ryan Day has to get hires correct. And we've talked about, you want a guy at a coordinator's spot that has previous head coaching experience, that has been around for a while, that has a system that works, that can be the head coach of that side of the ball. We've talked about that a lot. But then you have to factor in the fact that you have assistant O-line coaches and you have grad assistants, and maybe you will have multiple quality control coaches. You have to make sure that everybody you hire is on the same page and can elevate the team from where they were last year or let's go a little bit further, can elevate the team back to the mountaintop. Winning back-to-back national championships is very, very hard. You know what's also really, really hard? Winning a national championship. So when you're trying to do something in back-to-back seasons, you accomplished it once. Okay, you didn't accomplish it the next year. It's going to be very hard to get back there the next year, but if you fine-tune things in the offseason with the coaching hires, you're going to find a team that is more prepared and more well-equipped to get back to the mountaintop. I think Ohio State can do it. I mean, you have Julian Sayin still there. I went on this whole show not really discussing Julian Sayin because I was thinking about other players, but you have a quarterback that is entering year 2 of their starting quarterback, is going to be a guy that has been he should be very accurate in the upcoming season. He knows the entire offense. He's returning to lead a side of the ball that has a lot of the same players from last season that will get better, that will be more equipped to utilize the schemes Ohio State puts out there for the players to run with on the football field. And when you have a guy like Julian Sayin, that's a great recruiting tool when it comes to recruiting a coach to Ohio State. But you got to make sure that hire meshes well with your quarterback and your vision, not only short-term vision, but long-term vision. Because you could bring in a guy that's a coordinator that turns into a Bud Foster at Virginia Tech, that's there for 20 years, that's been around, that has been at a school I believe he was there when they went to play for a national championship. And when you would get a guy like that, what are you going to do? You got to make sure that, one, you get the guy and you maximize him, one, to get there, but maximize him for the long haul. And if Ryan Day could find a way to get a coordinator for 20 years, oh, man, that's a goal that a lot of people would love to have. Let's think about it. Terry Smith, still assistant coach at Penn State, I believe he was there before James Franklin got there. So James Franklin comes in. Terry Smith was already there, former Penn State player. He's there, but what are you finding? You're finding stability, and he's in unison with the administration, which helps James Franklin's transition to go from Vanderbilt to Penn State. And now when James Franklin gets fired, he's kind of the bridge between the former coach and Matt Campbell coming in and being the new coach, but you're finding stability. And that's what Ohio State needs. They have stability with the coaches, and I believe they're all in one accord. But if the new guy comes in, if he's a great coach but doesn't mesh well with the other coaches like you think he's going to, it could lead to disaster. I'm not saying disaster means you're going to be 6-6 or 6-7 like during the Luke Fickell year when the Buckeyes had an interim head coach. I'm not going that far. I am not doing that. That disaster is something that nobody thinks is going to happen in the upcoming season. It's possible. It's 100% possible. But no one thinks it's actually going to happen. What can happen is Ohio State winning a national championship this year. I don't personally know right now where I sit when it comes to my expectations for Ohio State in the upcoming season. It is literally January 20th. Being recorded on January 19th. It's currently 7:36 at the time that's recorded. I generally don't know. We haven't seen these guys in practice. We haven't seen or gotten reports about how I don't even believe winter workouts have started yet. So we don't know a lot of things about this team for me to go into a season and have any type of expectation already put together. I don't know. The one thing I know is this. We have seen what works when Ryan Day gets hires correct. The longer he's at Ohio State, he gets more hires correct. He gets more promotions correct. There are also times that hires and promotions don't go the way people think they should go. Let's go back to this past season. Yes, Ryan Day said it was almost a no-brainer and the right path for Hartline's career to be the OC once again. The 2 seasons where the offense was the worst under Ryan Day was when Hartline was the offensive coordinator. This isn't me saying he's a bad coach. I think he wasn't the right man for the job last year because when you've never been a head coach before, it's very, very difficult to run one side of the ball when you've never had to do that before. Yes, he has a great eye for talent. He develops receivers, at least at the top end, to be really, really good. I mean, there's an argument to be made that a better development of talent was Zach Smith over Brian Hartline, but I really haven't dove into that yet because there's really no reason to right now. That's more of a deeper summer conversation that may come up on this show. I'm not really sure. But Hartline didn't have the head coaching experience. I think it showed with the offense and how things looked under Hartline when he was calling the plays and how things looked under Ryan Day when he was calling plays. Why? Because he knows how to run a side of the ball. He knows how to run the team. If Ryan Day goes out here and gets a head coach or gets a coach that doesn't have the ability to run one side of the ball while also calling plays, that's a recipe for disaster, and it's a sign that Ryan Day didn't get a hire correct. I have faith that Ryan Day will get the hires correct. I got faith that Ryan Day can maximize the players mentally and physically, and it all goes back to making sure the Buckeyes leave no doubt on the football field. When you go to Bloomington, when you go to Austin, Texas, when you play USC for the first time in a while, probably since the bowl game and the Fiesta Bowl, when you play all these teams in this upcoming season, make sure you leave no doubt. Because when you leave no doubt, you feel like you did after the Michigan win. When you leave doubt, you feel like you did at the Miami loss. Which one would you like in the upcoming season when the Buckeyes are on the field? Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Buckeyes so you get all the latest episodes. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Buckeyes ad-free, plus members-only Discord access, which is a big Buckeye group chat, and more. Head to lockedonbuckeyes.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen Locked On College Football. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes on a Tuesday. We'll see you next time.